I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I would click with anybody or make many friends.
Living in a house with 13 other humans, it's a lot to adjust to.
I'm usually a person that likes to be really private and keep to myself, and so before going to Casa, I thought I could keep that up.
When I first heard there was no internet, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, what? Like, how could I live without that?
I mean, you get there and you've traveled for 24 hours. And I remember walking out of customs just like very disheveled and trying to navigate the language for the first time. And this large, tall Argentine man just comes running up to me, gives me the biggest hug, like kisses on both cheeks, and I'm just sort of like, oh my God, what is going on? But it ended up being Martin, who is our director down there and essentially our crazy Argentine uncle.
Two of my cohort mates and we were the first ones to arrive, and I couldn't sleep that night because I was just it was a lot of information to take in, I think, going from a different country and then going to a house with these people I've just met.
It was definitely tough the first day because you definitely felt like you were somewhere unfamiliar. I didn't know the language, I didn't know any Spanish, just very hi, how are you? That's about it.
One of the coolest things was just the amount of access I had to the culture and the people in Argentina.
Obviously, being in Casa, the first pillar being community, you're thrown into all these communities, more than you ever could imagine you needed.
There are a lot of young people in the city, so it's fun.
It's 100% normal to run into someone and then just talk to them for several hours. And then the next thing you know, you're going to dinner at their house and you're best friends.
So we take classes at the Catholic University of Córdoba. We take classes in theology and psychology, as well as our praxis seminar, where we kind of reflect on our experiences in the praxis sites and how they relate to other things.
In a few of our classes, we had just as many Argentinians as US students.
It's just so far out of your comfort zone, ways I didn't even really anticipate, because I knew that there would be a different language and the kind of slightly different teaching styles, but just culturally, it's just different.
You'll be sitting there and you'll get a tap on the shoulder and someone's handing you mate, and we're all drinking from the same straw, the same cup in this room, and then the professor points and then someone hands him the mate too.
It really just threw us into the culture, seeing how the students were in Argentina.
Argentinians are very willing to share. You walk into a group of Argentinians, you just feel like you're instantly a part of it.
At one time, there was an assignment that was given out, and they divided us into groups, and they put the foreign students in one group, just for simplicity's sake, the professor did, and the other Argentine students decided that wasn't fair, and so they stood up on behalf of us to the professor and just kind of started this conversation about how we should actually do it, and it was just, you just kind of get adopted in as one of their own.
The whole semester is circled around what are you learning in this moment? And in Casa, we talk a lot about accompaniment. And that was a really difficult concept for me to grasp at first. It's so different from service in the sense that through the whole process, we don't go down there with any sort of goal or if you check this box, that means you succeeded. It's very just okay, we're going and we're gonna, you're gonna just be there and see.
I think it relates a lot of Casa's spirituality in a way of just being, and that concept of not having to do something productive in order to be useful.
With my praxis site, I was at Escuela Sabine, which is an elementary school in a pretty hard neighborhood.
Just by virtue of the fact that we're going into communities that all of them are lower class communities that struggle to have basic necessities like food and housing and things like that, and that's very hard and emotional to deal with and to process.
There was a flooding, a huge storm that came through and essentially flooded this entire neighborhood, and they have no sewage ways to get it out. So my kids are coming to class and they haven't been in dry clothes for 3 days, and you can tell. Or one of my girls was falling asleep and I was like, hey, are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I didn't get dinner last night. So just to get little glimpses like that of like how lucky I am was really hard.
It's hard. It's really hard to watch just kind of the difficulties that people face and feeling like you can't do anything, and then also just questioning your own validity in being there.
If something difficult did happen in the practice site, I always felt like there would be people waiting at home just ready to talk about it and flesh it out and sit down with you, you know, at any hour, really. Even if you woke them up, it seems like they would be willing to talk.
It also wasn't like we were helping them. They were helping us, like teaching us new things and making us see things more with a open eye and having a more open perspective and stuff like that. Just seeing life from a different lens, and it makes you appreciate a lot.
Every Monday night, we would have spirituality night.
I liked the fact that it was very open, and because we don't all have the same spiritual backgrounds.
I was raised Muslim, and I'm like kind of journeying in terms of like what my own spirituality is, and I like the space is really created to kind of explore like your spirituality, your values, and what that means to you.
Even people who consider themselves as non-spiritual could find something valuable within that.
We like ask these questions about like what does it mean to like love others, to be in community. I hadn't expected to like be so affected by it.
¿Qué va a comer? ¿Qué va a comer? ¿Dónde esté tu amor? ¿Dónde esté tu amor? Dale de comer.
We were very, very close as a community. We'd have class together, we'd go to praxis together, and then we'd come back to the house and we'd spend hours on end just kind of like sitting around and just like talking. Anyone who showed up or came was just always welcome. And sometimes it would be someone would just come ring the doorbell and then just would come in for merienda, and then the next thing you know, they're staying for the afternoon snack, they're staying for dinner, they're staying for our reflections and like the evening, and you just kind of like, just goes one thing to another, and it just feels very natural and normal.
A lot of us started learning to play ukulele or guitar and like have weekends by the pool, like sitting out in the sun for hours and just like playing music and talking together.
I think the community was my favorite thing. We had a really big Thanksgiving dinner with about 50 people, and that was one of my favorite memories.
I adored my time of being in Argentina and the opportunity to just visit and travel. We went to Patagonia, and in Patagonia we went to El Bolson, which is the hippie town of Patagonia. We traveled also to Mendoza, where we visited wineries and all that, and it's really comfortable. It's like so much more comfortable to travel by bus, and you get to see so much of the scenery. I remember crossing over into Chile. We drove through snow that came up at the half of the bus. Like, it was so big. It was, to me, it was beautiful, and I really like nature, so it was great.
Like a huge thing that I noticed is I have Argentine friends now. My Spanish, I can communicate in Spanish, and before I couldn't.
Coming out, like I could spend the whole day by myself and totally handle myself and could have deeper conversations about really complex emotional things with locals. Casa really immerses you in the culture, I think more so than a lot of the traditional study abroad programs.
By the time you get to that last couple weeks, our practice seminar is all about how is this going to translate to your life after this. Casa is not just the 4 months, it's after that. It's hard coming back. I think the pace of life is so much different. I have gotten to come back here and see that wow, there's all these people around me every moment, and they might be moving fast, but I don't have to.
I no longer feel the need to kind of be going constantly all the time, so much as just kind of like being more willing to kind of like spend time doing things a little bit more intentionally, I think.
And me, I'm kind of really to myself as a person. But with Casa, you had to like speak up and kind of share your ideas, and that has helped me a lot coming back to the States.
I've learned the importance of vulnerability, the importance of like relying on others and having a community that can support you rather than trying to just like muscle through everything on your own.
You get a whole new perspective on your old life and see that you don't actually need to be so invested in a lot of the areas that you are invested in.
There, people would just take us in and love us. I think it helped me realize the oneness of human beings that I didn't really take into account before.
I don't feel like I studied abroad. To equate my experience with like study abroad just seems to not do it justice, because it was so much more than that. To be surrounded by the most genuine, like heartfelt, compassionate people that I've ever met in my life is such a special experience.
Going there kind of really showed what, I guess, like what true happiness is. It's not about material, it's about who you surround yourself with, the community you're in.